6 people were arrested in Scotland last night in Glasgow amid trouble between nationalists and unionists.
I think sectarianism is when two cultures maybe don't get along as well, or like Celtic and Rangers, they don't get along as well as maybe Celtic gets on with a different team.
Catholic, praying more than Christians.
Just they believe in different cults.
I think they have different Bible.
You don't have to be Catholic to support Celtic.
My name is Seamus, I'm 11 years old and I'm a Rangers fan.
My name is Ryan Petty and I support this lovely club Celtic. Because my dad supports them, my family do as well.
Celtic, because my papa supports them and he's Catholic and I'm Catholic.
What does sectarianism mean to you?
Sectarianism to me really is like a religious divide. I would have thought it involves religion.
Something that's far away. So for me, it would have been what was happening in Northern Ireland.
When people feel separated.
I've lived in Scotland 3 years and I'm only now beginning to get some kind of concept about it. I've never really come across it at all until fairly recently, and the thing that comes to mind is everybody seems to come down in one camp or other as far as football's concerned. You're either a Rangers fan or a Celtic fan.
Of a stirring cup final, but now it is cascaded into violence, the kind of violence we didn't think would happen and didn't want to happen. Here comes another charge by the Rangers fans. Wow, this is one of the worst scenes of violence we've seen here at Hampden Park. Bottles, cans and missiles being thrown, and it's a pitch battle out there. Police in the middle of it are nearly powerless to try and prevent this happening.
Is a useless, outdated piece of social engineering. When I was younger, I never thought of it that way. I never really thought of it at all. But now, I think it's useless, destructive.
It means that there is a break between people, and usually because of religious causes. It can also be political causes, and it really does exist within the world today.
When I think of sectarianism, I think of Protestants and Catholics, Rangers and Celtic.
Religion and football.
Parish priest at St Fillan's Catholic Church. My name is Martin Drysdale. I'm called Canon. It means I have a function in Dundee, which is the centre of our diocese, which is Dunkeld Diocese. So sometimes I help out there in helping to manage and run the diocese.
My name is Andrew Phillip. I'm the parish minister for the Church of Scotland here for Crieff, and I've lived in Crieff now for just over a year. Prior to that I lived in Dunfermline and in Glasgow where I was a minister in 2 other parishes. My role here is to be the parish minister to the congregation, but also to serve the parish, the community, the people in the town and in the surrounding hillside here in rural Perthshire.
What does sectarianism mean to you?
Personally, sectarianism, which is obviously a problem in Scotland, but it's a lot better these days. It means to me the bigotry in which people, in many ways, attack each other. Unfortunately, it's only normally small pockets of people who do this, but it has been a problem down the generations, and it can be passed on from one generation to the next.
I was first aware of sectarianism when I was at school, and there would be fights between different schools in Edinburgh where I was a student. These were kind of in cultural fights. They were rooted in the dark distant past, and these 2 schools fought, and it was because one was denominational, one was non-denominational, or Catholic and Protestant schools. And nobody knew the reasons for the fights, but the fights went on.
But I have to say my own experience of working with churches, working with the community in Crieff, has been a very positive one, because it's been very open and welcoming, and people generally have tried to work together, and that's my experience of it. But I know that other people have different experiences in different parts of the country, so it's a problem we have to fix. But at the same time we have to be positive and recognise the goodwill that exists between people and work together for that. But people have felt at times under attack, or a slight sense of persecution, or being an underclass. But that goes back in history quite a distance, and hopefully a lot of that has changed.
And then years later, when I was a minister in Glasgow, you're much more aware of sectarianism in Glasgow. And it wasn't so much divisions between people in the churches. We had a Roman Catholic congregation just literally across the road from my church, and I got on great with the priests there, and the congregations got on well, and we shared lots of activities, and there was an old folks friendship club which was shared between the 2 congregations. Everybody in the churches got on, but we became aware if there was a match at Celtic Park, depending on who won or lost, our windows would be smashed, or the chapel windows would be smashed every other weekend. And you became aware that there was an element in the communities that targeted the churches depending on the results of a football match.
As a church leader, how would you deal with sectarianism?
Well, generally the first thing you do is listen to people, communicate to people, and give them a background of where you come from as a priest or a minister, which is love of God and love of neighbour, and show people their responsibility to act in this way, and be a witness really to what Christ says. So that was the approach we would take. Much of it comes from when another group of people come into a country, and sometimes there's a bit of fear and suspicion or the threat to them. And that's not just the days of the Irish Catholics coming in. Other groups have come in and felt the same. But eventually people integrate, and if you can get communication, respect, and working together, in many ways that can be overcome and people can go forward.
How could people be educated on sectarianism?
I think if you simplify it for the children in the schools and don't make it a big, like, religion is their choice, whether they go down that road, you know what I mean? But if you simplify it for children, not make it a taboo subject to talk about, I think it'd be more open with each other. You know, we've all got our own opinions, haven't we? really. And if we're all the same, it'd be a boring place, really. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think if the education about religion was simplified and fun.
I think they probably need to know why there could be a religious hatred, and that they just need to be shown that there shouldn't be a hatred, and they should be shown that every religion, every person gets on with each other. There shouldn't be the divide. It doesn't matter who you support, what religion you are. Everyone's a man's a man, a woman's a woman, a child's a child. So I mean, you should always just get on with each other.
I think any example of intolerance needs to be identified and shown as what it is, which is discriminatory, cruel, bigoted, whether it's on the basis of gender, wealth, religion, all of those things. Once identified, they should be identified immediately as being exactly what they are, discriminatory, and they should be pointed out how devastating the effects of discrimination can be and what it can lead to. It can lead to hatred, it can lead to murder, it can lead to just cruelty. So it needs to be stamped on immediately, but it needs to be identified for what it is.
I think just as much as possible to work on things or to work on projects and everything that just encompass differences and get people to understand other people's differences and to accept other people's differences.
Families have a big role, a huge role in how the next generation, the younger generation, works together, reacts together. And I think a lot of the time when there are issues in young people, sometimes it's the parents who need to be helped to understand it.
I think, to be truthful, they're listening and recognising we're all human beings, and to look at when a group comes in, why they're here. For example, the Polish community are very much after work. They're not here to take over the country, obviously. They're here because of a need. And human nature tends to be the same wherever you go. So we would actually just look at educating people in trusting others, finding out their background, know why they're here, realising they have the same aspirations as anybody else. Everybody wants to be happy, everybody wants to be secure, everybody wants to have a future, and teach people that real education is when you look to your future, then we have to go forward together as a community, and we have to support each other and learn from the diversity of people and the different richness of treasures of personality and background that they bring. We see that already in our country, even in restaurants, whereas when I was a youngster, there was very few restaurants from other countries, whereas now we take it for granted that they have a variety of restaurants, and there's more and more different people from Europe and different backgrounds. And it's really to recognise we can learn from each other and we can work together in the future.